بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين على أمور الدنيا والدين وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد خاتم النبيين وآله وصحبه أجمعين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. So, alhamdulillah, today we continue with where we stopped during Ramadan from reading from the book by Shaykh Muhammad Al-Ameen Al-Ethiopi, Al-Hararee, Hafidhullah. But I want to start first by asking a question. Since we're reading from the science, we're reading from the Tafseer of the Quran. Since we're reading from Tafseer, what's the goal that we should have in mind with studying Tafseer? What should be our goal? What should be our intention specifically with this science of Tafseer? For every science, we want to get closer to Allah, for sure. Huh? You want to act on what you learn from every science. What's specific about Tafseer? What's the virtue? Why are we learning Tafseer? What's so important about Tafseer of the Quran? Learn and use what in our life? What's the subject? What are we studying in Tafseer? What's our topic? What is the topic that we're studying in Tafseer? We're studying Pokemon, how to play soccer and use your left foot and not your right foot to score a goal. What are we studying? How to make sambusa? What's the subject? What are we learning? If you can't tell me what we're learning when we're studying Tafseer, we'll just stop the class right now. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. What are we studying when we're studying Tafseer? Huh? We're studying the Quran. It's so simple. Why are you guys making it difficult? The Quran. We're trying to understand the ayat of the Quran. What is Allah saying to us? Why is that so important? So that we know what to do, how to act upon the commands of Allah. Right? So that we can get closer to Allah. So we can understand what is the intent of Allah. What does Allah want from us to do with His words? Right? So that hopefully our lives will change by understanding what Allah is telling us to do. Okay? Does that make sense? Can we agree upon that? That we're all studying the Quran? Since we're studying the Quran, why doesn't everybody have a Quran in front of them? It's the next question, right? So give these guys Quran, please. Are we ready now? Are we prepared? You guys are taking forever. Listen. what are we studying? What is our topic of study when studying Tafseer? The Quran. What are you going to do when you learn what Allah tells you to do? What are you going to do when you learn what Allah tells you to do? Tafseer is one of the most, Tafseer is the most important. Let's start it like this, right? First of all, let's become quiet, all right? Tafseer is the most important science in Islam. That's the first thing we have to understand. What's the most important science in the Quran? In Islam? Tafseer. The most important subject matter to be studied in Islam is Tafseer. Why is that? Why is Tafseer the most important science or fan that can be studied in Islam? The most important ilm. Why is that? Huh? To help you understand the Quran. That's like answering the same question backwards. Why is it so important? What makes it more important than all the other sciences? Huh? To translate Allah's words? Tafseer is not translation. Translation is not tafseer. Huh? Guidance? No, but we're talking about now what makes it so important. Okay, since nobody knows, why do you memorize the Quran? Okay. Why learn Arabic? To understand the Quran, to make tafsir, right? Why study nahw and sarf, right? Grammar and the way that the verbs change in Islam. Why? So that you can understand the Arabic of the Quran. Why study usul and fiqh? To be able to understand the Quran. Why study hadith? Because you want to know the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ explain the Quran. Because the Prophet ﷺ was sent to do what? Explain the Quran. Every other science is studied so that you can do what? Understand the Quran. Every other science comes from the Quran, and every other science is studied so that we can learn the Quran. So the Quran, or tafsir of the Quran, is what's called a goal knowledge. It's a knowledge that's our final goal in all the other knowledge that we learn. You memorize the Quran so that you can learn tafsir easier. Right? Does that make sense? So everything that everyone is working towards now, trying to memorize the Quran, the whole purpose of that is not just to say I'm hafiz the Quran. The purpose is that you can move further and start to do what? Continue on your journey to be able to learn the tafsir of the Quran. Right? Here's a question. Who has more worth? The hafiz, who doesn't understand nothing about the Quran, or the person who knows all of the tafsir of the Quran? Exactly, because the hafiz is just kindergarten. Right? You memorize the Quran so that you can get accepted to the school to learn tafsir of the Quran, right? Does that make sense? You learn hadith, you learn aqeedah, all of that so that you can go to the Quran and it'll be easier for you to understand what's being dealt with the subject matter. Is that clear? So, my question to you all again is, what's your goal in trying to learn tafsir of the Quran? After we show that's the most important knowledge, what's the goal of this most important science? One, understanding is nothing if you don't do what? The whole goal is to be able to act upon it and live our lives in accordance to the Quran. Because the Quran wasn't sent down to just what? Read and recite. It was sent down so that we can act upon it, so that our lives will change because of the Quran. If we're reading Quran and understanding Quran and doing tafsir of Quran, but our lives still are filthy, right? Our lives... You guys can sit right here. Both of you. If our lives don't become... No. On the floor right here. Thank you. So if our lives are not becoming impacted by the Quran, then we're doing something wrong. And what's the most important thing that we should check there's two principles I want to bring to light. That if our lives are not changing by our study of Islam, specifically the Quran, there's two things we need to check. Sincerity, right? And there's another thing. What's the second thing we need to check? You can join them on the floor. What's the second thing we need to check? Our reliance upon Allah, right? Because, as we say, there's a very important ayah and a very important surah. If I ask you all, to wake you up, let's wake everybody up first before we start. What's the most important surah in the Quran? Al-Fatiha, are you sure? You said Al-Fatiha? You said Al-Baqarah? Wal-Asr? Why do you say Wal-Asr? Because the Shafi, Imam Shafi said, Lola anzal Allah ala hada ummah hada surah lakafathum, right? Huh? So you say Wal-Asr because of that statement of Imam Shafi, right? That's not what that statement means, number one. Right? He's explaining something about the surah, that this surah is a surah to remind us and give us guidance, but it doesn't mean it's the most important surah in the Quran. Right? So what's the most, you said Al-Baqarah? Why did you say Al-Baqarah? It's the whole Quran in general, huh? This is very sad. That's something that we should be able to ask Malik in the back. What's the most important surah in the Quran? Al-Fatiha. What surah have we been commanded to recite 17 times a day? What surah the Prophet starts? Al-Quran. That your salat's not even accepted without it. How can it be anything else besides Al-Fatiha? You two, come here. So Al-Fatiha is the most important surah in the Quran, hands down, right? Al-Fatiha is the whole Quran summarized. Sit there on the floor. Everything else in the Quran is explaining Al-Fatiha, right? So now, I'm going to ask you guys an even more difficult question perhaps. What's the most important ayah in Surah Al-Fatiha? What? Ihdina siratal mustaqim. What did you say? Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. This is the heart of Al-Fatiha. Some of the ulama, they say that Allah brought all of the Quran into Surah Al-Fatiha, and He brought the whole Quran into Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. That's deep, right? That means we need to understand what that means. Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah ta'ala, he wrote a whole book, Madad al-Islam, about what? Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. The book is big. It's like 3 volumes in some prints. I have a 1 volume print, but it's still like this big. Right? All about this one ayah, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Why is it so important? Because it sums up our deen. What is our purpose in the earth? What did Allah say He created us for? So worship Him, right? وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Is this right? Everyone knows this. Allah says this what? Surah Al-Zariyat, that I did not create mankind and the jinn except to do what? Worship me. What does this ayah say? إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ. You alone do we worship. Right? So the ulama, they say this ayah here sums up La ilaha illallah. It's the reality of La ilaha illallah. You alone do we worship. There is nothing that deserves to be worshipped except for Allah. It makes it very clear for us. Then we have وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ. You alone do we ask for help. What does that tell us? We can't do anything without Allah. So this is the reality of what they say of La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. This powerful statement that was called one of the treasures of Jannah, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. It means what? There is no might, no power. There's no change or movement. La hawla, right? There's no ability to move or change or power or anything. Or la hawla wa la quwwa. There's no strength or might except with the assistance of Allah. Can't do anything without Allah. Can't move, can't talk, can't think. Nothing happens without Allah. So that's what Iyyaka nasta'in does. It helps us to It helps us to realize that we can't do anything without the help of Allah. We can't even worship Allah without His help. Does that make sense? The most important thing in our life is to worship Allah. We can't even do that without the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What about everything else? Are you going to become a billionaire without the help of Allah? You can become a doctor, lawyer, a scholar without the help of Allah? None of that is possible without the help of Allah. You think you're going to change your life? Munira, the floor is for people who are talking in class. If you want to join them, it's no problem. I have a special role for all the people who want to talk in class. That way they can sit and talk to each other. Right? Comfortable on the floor. Alright, so anyway, right? You're never going to achieve success in this life or in the next life until you fulfill these two purposes, these two pillars. That you worship Allah, that you put your focus of your worship on Allah, and as well you focus on the fact that you can't do anything without the help of Allah. So if we are not changing in our lives, right? If our lives are not being affected by the Quran, and we're not changing, we need to look back at Iyaka na'budu wa Iyaka nasta'een. Either we're not sincere to Allah, and making our focus of what we're doing for the sake of Allah, not to be seen, not to be known, not to be said, oh, I finished the Quran and everybody knows it, right? Not to be the scholar that everyone refers back to, but I'm doing it because Allah told me to do like this. I'm doing it because Allah loves the Allaamah. I'm doing it because Allah loves those who seek knowledge, and so much reward for the one who seeks knowledge, right? I'm doing it because I want to change myself to be a good Muslim that Allah loves. I want Allah to love me. Anyone here want Allah to hate them? So we have to start working on doing the things that Allah loves, correct? And you can't do it without the help of Allah. So the second thing that people lack in the most of the time is that they forget that they can't rely on themselves. This generation, or this time that we live in, people have become very so-called self-reliant. And they think that I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. But the reality is we can't do anything. As long as you rely on yourself, no change is going to happen. No real, meaningful change is going to happen if you're just relying on your own smarts. I'm smart enough to get it done. I'm disciplined enough to get it done. No, you're not. Regardless of what you think about yourself, you can praise yourself all day. You can't accomplish anything without relying on Allah. Putting your trust in Allah. Realizing that Allah is the one who has everything under control. And we have nothing under control. Does that make sense? You have to empty out your brain. A lot of times we're so full of ourselves that nothing else goes in. Right? Anybody ever heard this before? We're so full of ourselves, right? You say, man, I'm the greatest thing moving since cars, right? There hasn't been a better invention since the time that cars were made than me. People think like this sometimes. That what can be better than Khadar? It's a problem if you think like that. That you just that person, right? Make sense? So we want to change our lives through the Quran. Is that agreeable? That's our purpose of coming here, right? That everyone got up today and put on their, mashallah, a lot of people have nice white thobes on today, right? Somebody listened to class yesterday, alhamdulillah. Some people didn't. But, you know, you don't always get full results the first day. Maybe next time the people will come. Who knows what's going to happen, right? But there's some nice white thobes and people look prepared. Like they thought about coming to class today, right? Alhamdulillah. So, you made that mental preparation to come to class, got dressed, took a shower. You a man, you put on some nice smelling goods. The girl, you didn't put nothing on, inshallah, right? Why did you do that? Because you want to change your life, inshallah, right? Not just because you want to come hang out, see your friends, talk, sit on the floor, right? You came because you want to change your life, inshallah. I know that my purpose, I want to change my life, right? We all should want to become better. No one should ever feel that where I'm at today is my highest pinnacle. You understand what that means? Yes or no? What does it mean? And explain it to me. I'm different type because you look like you understood it really well. Make tafseer of that for us. Huh? But what's the danger of that? If today I'm at the highest point in my life, what's dangerous about that? You can't go any further. That's sad. There should never be a point in our life where we feel like we can't go any further. That I've already reached my destination. I'm there. I've arrived. You feel like that, that's a problem. That I'm just perfect, alhamdulillah, how I am. I don't have nothing to fix, nothing to work on. I'm good. If I die today, I'm going to Jannah. Some people think like this. I die today? Don't worry, I got my car, I'm going to Jannah. Sheikh Sufi gave me a card, pass, to put in my grave with me and took billah. Some people have this, but you guys are laughing, it's reality. That's another topic. Anyways, let's start. We are on, if you don't have a Quran, you're in the wrong class. If you don't have a Quran in front of you, you're in the wrong class. Doesn't mean you can leave, it means go get a Quran.
Man.
Yes. No. That's something that you have to deal with. It's okay. You talk back. You're still talking now. We are on ayat number 246 from Surah Al-Baqarah. We're on ayat. That means open your mushaf to ayat 246 in Surah Al-Baqarah. The ayat, Alam tara ila al-mala'i min bani Israel. Alam tara ila al-mala'i min bani Israel. Are we ready? What page is that? Somebody tell me what page it is. Huh? Page 40. Page 40. Afartan. Afartan? Huh? I don't know what I'm wrong with. I'm still struggling to get to my final destination. Hararee. The top of page 40. Are we good? Some people, they say, what are we going to do when I can't read Arabic? Right? That's what's going through some people's heads right now, right? That's how you should feel. Because then now, I'm going to tell you something, right? You know what that does? Some people right now, they're saying, what are we going to do when I can't read Arabic? I don't understand. This is like Chinese to some people, right? Raise your hand if it looks like Chinese in front of you.
I'm not going to lie.
Good. What that will do is this. Whenever your brain runs into a wall that it can't figure out, what does your brain do? Your brain is not like us. Our brain starts to say, I want to know what that means, right? So now your brain is telling you, somebody tell me, explain to me what is going on, right? So now, inshallah, that's what we're going to do to the best of our ability, right? Reading from the reflections of our Shaykh, Al-Ameen Al-Hararee. We're going to try to make understanding of these pages of Quran, inshallah. What we're not going to do is do a word-for-word translation, though. Just so everyone is aware of it now. Because it's going to take forever to do something like that. We are just going to explain the ayat generally and how they're connected generally. And and what benefits we can take from it generally, right? Because as we mentioned before, this is our first time going through the whole Quran. So whenever you go through the Quran the first time, the only thing you really want to do is explain the words that might be odd or strange, and explain the concept or what we can get out of each ayah. Then we come through it again, more detail, so on and so forth, every time we go through it, inshallah. It makes sense? On the top of page 40, it should be the other side, right? I think it's the other. This side it should be. Put it up. It should be the side, it should be the lesser side. It's the bigger side? Yeah. Okay, it should be the bigger side, excuse me. Alright, let's begin. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allah Ta'ala, He says, أَلَمْ تَرَ إِلَى الْمَلَئِ مِنْ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ مِنْ بَعْدِ مُوسَى إِذْ قَالُوا لِنَبِيٍّ لَهُمْ ابْعَثْ لَنَا مَلِكًا نُقَاتِلْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ قَالَ هَلْ عَسَيْتُمْ إِن كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الْقِتَالُ أَلَّا تُقَاتِلُوا قالوا وما لنا ألا نقاتل في سبيل الله وقد أخرجنا من ديارنا وأبنائنا فلما كتب عليهم القتال تولوا إلا قليلا منهم والله عليم بالظالمين. Allah says, have you not considered, thought about, reflected upon that group? Al-Mala' is a group, a jama'ah, a group from amongst the children of Bani Israel who came after the time of Musa. So now we dealt with, most of the time in Surah Al-Baqarah, we dealt with the people during the time of Musa, how ignorant they were towards Musa, right? How they didn't want to accept, even during the time of Musa, how Bani Israel was always fighting, always acting ignorant, always not wanting to submit to the law, right? And we have people like that today amongst the Muslims too. It's not just Bani Israel. Even amongst the Muslims today, we see people who don't want to submit to the law of Islam, right? So, but this is after Musa now we're talking about. So we have to pause for a second and look at the history of Bani Israel. After Musa ﷺ passed away and Harun was gone as well, the people at first, they were upon Tawheed and they did good. They did okay, right? We know Bani Israel, they can't stay on it for forever. So they did okay for a little bit. Then after a while, they started to make innovation, bid'ah. They started to make up stuff in their deen and say, we're going to do it this way. No, let's do it that. And they used to just make up stuff. Now, mind you, Bani Israel was the group of people who had more prophets and more prophets sent to them than anyone else, correct? So even after Musa passed away, Bani Israel still had prophets coming to them. So they would come and they would remind the people to fear Allah, worship Allah, don't do that, but the people wouldn't listen. That's why we see so many times in the Quran that Allah talks about Bani Israel. Whenever a prophet will come to you, which you don't like, you will kill him or get him away from him, or you won't listen to him. That was their way. So after the time of Musa, they remained like this, and they did good for a little bit, and they would, after a while, they started to transgress and go backwards again. Until even to the extent that some of them used to commit shirk. They used to worship idols and worship other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now while this was happening, Allah would punish them. And He would punish them by sending their enemies to kill them and fight them and take their land. So their land was being consumed and taken. Their children were being captured and some of their people were being captured. And this is what was happening to them. The more that they became disobedient to Allah, the more losses they suffered in the dunya. Don't we see that amongst the Muslims today? That we're disobedient to Allah, that's why we can't win, right? Our disobedience to Allah is the reason that the Muslim lands are going under what they're going under today, right? We don't have to look any further than ourselves and our obedience to Allah. How many Muslim lands, and forget the rulers, right? A lot of times the Muslims, we look at the ruler. Oh, the ruler is bad. One of the salaf, they used to say that you never get a bad ruler placed over you unless the people themselves are bad. Does that make sense? How many Muslim lands do the people actually live Islam in? Like literally live the spirit of Islam. They might go to the masjid and pray, they might do this. but they're going to have their faults, right? We're suffering big time with our application of Islam. Is that agreeable? That us as Muslims, we're not applying Islam the way that we should. And I don't think anyone can disagree with that fact. And if we know in our own little microcosms of our own little families that we're suffering and not applying Islam to the best of our abilities, then what do we think about the global Muslim community? We're not doing our best job, right? So, this was similar to what was happening during the time of Bani Israel. Then, it became so bad that Bani Israel, they used to have with them a taboo. We're going a little bit further in the Tafseer, but we're doing that so it'll make sense, right? This taboo, it was a little box, a wooden, I don't know if little or not, but it was a wooden box. And in this box, it was some of the remnants, some of the leftover items that belonged to Musa and to Harun, right? Some of the people, they said that what was in the box was 2 sandals of Musa and his stick. And also some of the people said it was the imamah of Harun. Harun's imamah was inside that box. So one thing we do know is that whenever they would utilize this box was something that used to cause calmness to Bani Israel when they would go to war. Then sometimes they go to war and they still want to run, right? Oh, we're going to war. They were Musa. And this box, Allah put some type of barakah, and whatever Allah put in this box as a reason and cause, it will cause them to be comforted and say, okay, we're not going to run. We're going to stay and fight. So eventually after Musa passed away, alayhi salatu wasalam, this box still remained amongst the Bani Israel until they became so disobedient that some of the scholars said that one of their enemies captured the box and took it from them. And some of the scholars said that Allah caused the box to be raised up to the sky. Right? So they no longer had this box that would help them to be courageous, to be comfort or be calm on the battlefield and not run. Okay? So that's the situation that they're in. So now while they're in this situation, a group amongst Bani Israel who were there after Musa, do we see where they're at now? They've been defeated and defeated and defeated. Now they're looking for any type of victory that they can find. Right? They've been lost. Even so much so that they don't even have a king to fight under anymore. Right? There hasn't even been a prophet from amongst them for a while. The prophets have stopped coming to them. So they're just lost now without a prophet. Now mind you something, right? Look at the amazing thing about Bani Israel. That now they want a leader to fight under, and they want to talk to the prophet that they have with them, who was Shamuel. His name was Shamuel, right? But they don't want to follow the prophets and everything they tell them to do anyway. So when they need the prophet, help us, ask Allah. But when the prophets tell them to do what's right and to stay away from what's wrong, then they don't stay and listen. So anyway, continuing, there was a break in prophethood for a while amongst Bani Israel. They didn't even have a prophet for a while. And so much so that the prophets from Bani Israel, they always came from the house of Levi, not the gene company. And there wasn't any prophets left or any men amongst them for a while. The only person there was a lady, and she was pregnant at the time. And her husband died. So they were all hoping that she would be pregnant with what? A boy. Right? So they locked her up and put her away and said, we're going to protect you, make sure nothing happens to you. We need you to have a boy for us or we're done. Because the line of prophethood will be disconnected with you. If you don't have a boy, we're finished. You understand that? So alhamdulillah, she was crying and making dua also that she gives birth to a boy. Alhamdulillah, she gave birth to a boy. And they called the boy Shamuel. That's where we get the name Samuel from. The English word Samuel, it comes from this word Shamuel. And it means that the response to your calls. That your calls and your cries were responded back to. That makes sense? So then in continuing, once this prophet was growing up, he became a righteous man and so on and so forth. Until now, they're looking to him for guidance and he's their prophet. Till it comes to the extent of, they're saying to this prophet, they come to him and they say, Oh prophet, and they're talking to prophet who, what's his name? Shamuel. wheel, like a wheel on a car, shamwil, right? So they come page 40. So they're talking to Shamwil and say, oh, select for us a king, right? So that we can fight in the way of Allah. We learned something here about what? Fighting in the way of Allah. Can't just do it renegade style, right? That we take 5, 6 people and say, listen, man, you know how to fight, I know how to fight, let's go fight. No, it has to be organized. So they're saying, select for us a king so that we can be organized, so that our word can be united under one authority, right? So that we listen to this king and we follow him. So we can fight in the way of Allah. He said, but perhaps if it's decreed for you to fight, maybe you won't even fight. How do you know that you're going to fight if we give you a king? What's your guarantee that you're going to fight? We know you to be cowards. We know you to be people who don't listen to Allah. If you can't obey Allah, how are you going to fight in the way of Allah? If you can't obey Allah in the easier matters, how are you going to obey Allah in the difficult matters like fighting? Right? قالوا وما لنا ألا نقاتل في سبيل الله وقد أخرجنا من ديارنا وأبنائنا. He said, why would we not fight in the way of Allah when we've been expelled from our homes and some of our children have been captured and took, right? فلما كتب عليهم القتال تولوا إلا قليلا منهم والله عليم بالظالمين. Then Allah Ta'ala says, but when it was a decree for them to fight, they ran away. تولوا means they turned their backs and they ran. They didn't stick to it, except for a few from amongst them. It was said to be 313 men stayed out of an army that left of 80,000 people. Out of 80,000 people, 313 stayed. It's reality. A lot of people talk tough, but when the fire comes down, how many people go to get water and put out the fire, and how many people just run? So 313 people stayed, and these are the people who only drank a little bit of the water when they crossed the river, which is going to come later on in the story, in the story of the Quran. But that's the people who stayed. Were the people who obeyed their prophet, and some of them didn't drink at all, and some of them only drank a little handful, right? And that's going to become clearer later. And Allah is all aware of the ones who do wrong. وَقَالَ لَهُمْ نَبِيُّهُمْ. So now it goes back to the original story. And their prophet said to them, إِنَّ اللَّهَ قَدْ بَعْثَ لَكُمْ طَالُوتَ. Allah has sent to you to have Talut to be your king. Malikan. قالوا أَنَّا يَكُونُ لَهُ مُلْكُ عَلَيْنَا وَنَحْنُ أَحَقُّ بِمُلْكِ مِنْهُ وَلَمْ يُؤْتَ سَعَةً مِنَ الْمَالِ. So here comes Ben Israel being Ben Israel. They said, but how will he become king over us? Talut was said to be either a person who used to dye skins, right? You know, like his job was to take the leather skins and dye them. A real low job, right? Or he was said to be a person in the army, just a regular soldier. Wasn't a general, just a regular soldier in the army, right? But he had military knowledge, right? And they said he had physical build and he was handsome. But he didn't have a lot of money. But he had knowledge, physical build, and he was handsome. So the scholars, they say these are 3 of the categories of what a leader should have. Right? They said that he should have physical appearance so that he can, handle the job. If the leader is sickly and can't get out of bed, right? Who's going to follow him? What are you going to do? He's sick. He's an old guy. You push him over, he's going to fall, right? He has to have knowledge, and he should have a good appearance. His appearance shouldn't be the type that when people see him, they're like, oh, I don't want to talk to him. He's ugly, right? Like, he looks like a monster. But it doesn't mean he has to be the most good looking, but he has to be decent, right? Where people aren't afraid to deal with him. So they said to him, وَنَحْنُ أَحَقُّ بِمُلْكِ مِنْهُ وَلَمْ يُؤْتَ سَعَةً مِنَ الْمَالِ. They said that, why was it not given to us? How would it be given to him? He doesn't have no money, and we have more right to it than him. And he's not even from, and the reason they say we have more right to it is because he was not from the family of the leadership of the kings. During that time, the leader of the kings, they all came from the tribe of Yehuda. And he wasn't from that lineage. So they were trying to figure out, how can he be the king when he's not even from us? He's not from that tribe. So So again, Allah is even showing us back then that what? Tribalism has no importance. Doesn't matter who you're from or where you're from. If you have knowledge, if you're capable of doing the job, then you're the best one for the job. Even so much like the Prophet ﷺ told the Arabs, he said what? Even if an Abyssinian slave was to be placed over you, listen and obey, right? That makes sense? وَنَحْنُ أَحَقُّ بِمُلْكِ مِنْهُ وَلَمْ يُؤْتَ سَعَةً مِنَ الْمَالِ قال إن الله اصطفاه عليكم وزاده بسطة في العلم والجسم. Then he says that Allah, but regardless of what you're saying, Allah chose him over you all, and he increased him in wealth, he increased him in knowledge and body, in his physique. وَاللَّهُ يُؤْتِي مُلْكَهُ مَنْ يَشَاءُ, and Allah will give his dominion to whoever he wants. And Allah is all encompassing and all-knowing of everything. وقال لهم نبيهم إن آية ملكه أن يأتيكم التابوت فيه سكينة من ربكم وبقية مما ترك آل موسى وآل هارون تحمله الملائكة. So they wanted a sign. So the messenger, their prophet, said to them, his sign will be his sign of his dominion, of his authority. His mulk is his authority to rule. The sign of his authority to rule will be that the taboo that all of you know about, right? The box that had in it the remnants, the leftovers of Musa and Harun's stuff, that will come and be brought back to you. So what happened was they said the angels brought this box down from the sky that had the remnants of, what did I say was inside of it? The what? The Imam of Harun, 2 sandals or 1 sandal of Musa, and his stick. Right? So when the taboo was brought back down to them, then they understood that Talut, his name is, Talut was going to be the king over them. What was the name of the prophet? What was the prophet's name? How did he become prophet? Huh? How does Shemuel become prophet? Louder, speak louder, the fans are going. Good. Excellent, mashallah. Abdurrahman and Khadar, come sit here on the floor. You know, subhanAllah, other classes I'm a little bit more liberal. But when we deal with tafseer, it becomes a lot more serious. It's not a science that you can sit there and talk and play around. This is the highest science that you can learn in Islam. Okay? No. So, when the taboo came down from the sky, then the people, they became more comforted. Now they knew this is where our victory used to come from before. After the help of Allah, Allah made victory come to us through this. So they became comforted now. You have the taboo. Imagine if somebody says, you have that weapon? Wow. I'll fight with you now, right? So he had that taboo that caused him to be at ease and to be at comfort with his leadership. And they knew that he definitely was selected by Allah. Inna fi dhalika la'ayatan lakum in kuntum mu'minin. Indeed, and that is a sign for you if you are truly believers. Now we get into the story of how the battle happens. It's an amazing fight. فَلَمَّا فَصَلَ طَالُوتُ. So when Talut went out with his army, bin Junud, قال إن الله مبتليكم بنهر فمن شرب منه فليس مني ومن لم يطعمه فإنه مني إلا من اغترف غرفة بيدي فشربوا منه إلا قليلا منهم. Let's stop there, right? So they said when Talut went out with his people. Talut left with his people. Where was Talut going, Fatima? Where was Talut going? You, Fatima. Yeah, where was Talut going? Was he going to the grocery store? Was he going to the bank? He was going to the bank? Where was Talut going? To the battle, right? He was going to war. He had his army with them, and he was going to war. فَلَمَّا فَصَلَ طَالُوتُ بِالْجُنُودِ قَالَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ مُبْتَلِيكُم بِنَهْرٍ فَمَنْ شَرِبَ مِنْهُ فَلَيْسَ مِنِّي. So Talut, he said, this is a very important lesson that we have to learn. When Talut was going out, they said it was a very hot day. It's hot. And he went out with an army. Imagine the armies going out. They probably have on their military outfits. And remember back then, especially, they used to fight with a lot of that, what do they call this thing? You know that stuff they call it? Like the metal and armor and stuff like that. It's hot to have that stuff on. And you're marching. So Talut said to his army, listen, Allah is going to test us. We say that we believe in Allah. We say we're going to go fight in the way of Allah, but it doesn't work that easy. Everyone says they want to obey Allah, right? Everyone says they want to be a better Muslim, correct?
Yes.
But you're going to be tested in that claim. So sometimes the test comes with the thing that you desire the most, right? You might desire it the most, but if Allah says you can't do that, what does that mean? You can't do it. Just like during Ramadan time. It's hot sometimes, right? You're fasting. Normally it's okay to drink water, but you can't drink water in that time. Why? Because you believe in Allah, you want to obey the commands of Allah, correct? So فَلَمَّا فَصَلَ طَالُوتُ بِالْجُنُودِ قَالَ إِنَّ Allah is going to test us with a river. He understood this. We're going to cross a river. And they said this river is the Sharia river that's between Jordan and Palestine. Where is it? Between Jordan and Palestine this river was, right? So they're crossing out to cross the river, and he said, whoever, that the only ones who can come with me are the ones who don't drink from the river. Or if they do drink, they only drink a handful. They take a handful, and some of the scholars in Tafseer, they say that handful of water was enough for only them to drink and their animal. So they would have to give that water for themselves and their animal. So either you don't drink from it at all, or if you do take a handful, you have to share that handful with your animal too, right? So imagine that a whole you're hot, you get a little bit. Sometimes people are hot, they don't even want to share their bottle of water with their brother. So that's the test that they're given. So he says, whoever drinks from it is not from me. It means they can't go to war with me. Can't fight with me. Why? We don't need you if you're going to disobey Allah. If you really are with us, then you have to obey Allah. But if you disobey Allah, if you don't support the deen of Allah, how can we have you with us? That's a life goal. Write that down. That's a life goal that we should utilize. In choosing our friends, choosing the people that surround us, our supporters. If you can't support the deen of Allah, why do I need you? Does that make sense? If you're not going to ride with me to Jannah, where are we going to ride to? Not to the grove. What can we do in our life if we're not trying to live a life to please Allah? If you don't want to remind me of Allah and you don't want to accept my reminders about Allah, I don't need you and you don't need me. You can't be my friend. Because you'll do more harm to me. You don't think that Talut needed a big army? He's going to go fight Goliath. Jalut is a giant. Right? You know what a giant is? A person might be like 15, 20 feet tall. So they said he needs all the people he can have, right? But what's better is the quality of the people, not the quantity. It doesn't matter if you have 80,000 people, but they're all disobedient to Allah. It's better to go to war with 313 people that are all going to obey Allah. Oh yeah. Is it still recording? Did it stop? Huh? What did it say? I don't know. Anyway, right? What did it say? What? They don't give it that hang up to people, right? Must be my mother. The only one that. So anyway, right? Most people, if you hang up on them once or twice, they don't call back. The mothers, they'll call back until you answer if you don't answer. So anyway, right? Where was I just at? Huh? Oh, about drinking the water, right? Asma. Oh. So, the rule is that, what was the rule I just said? If they don't want to obey Allah with you, you don't need them in your life. Right? If they can't rock with you to the masjid, then you don't need them to rock with you anywhere else. If you have a friend, if you say, oh, come on, it's time for salah, let's pray, and they look at you and say, but let's just, you don't need that person in your life. They're going to do more harm to you than good. Does that make sense? You tell them, it's haram, they say, yo, shut up. Whoa, okay, mashallah, cool. This is not going to work. We can't be friends. It doesn't work that way. That's a life rule to take from this. Okay? So Talut says, if you drink from it, you can't be with me. Only if you drink a little bit, then you can be with me. فلما جاوزه هو والذين آمنوا معه قالوا لا طاقة لنا اليوم بجالوت وجنوده. So now they said when they crossed what? What river did they cross? Where is this river at? Between Jordan, mashallah, some young mufassirun coming up in the class. Between Jordan and Palestine, right? Yes. How many people crossed the river? Somebody, you have Rukia's number? Call me and tell her we're in class. I'll call her. Call her. Tell you. So, what was I saying?
Oh, the Jordan and...
It's between the Jordan and Palestine River, right? So now how many people crossed the river with him?
313.
How many people started off with him?
8,000.
That's a big decrease, right?
Yes, sir.
Not even 1,000 lasted. But what do we learn from that? We learn a principle. The reality is, most of the people are going to disobey Allah. It's only going to be a small few that obey Allah. It's not going to be a lot. Everyone's not going to come, right? It's only going to be a few chosen ones. And that's just the way of mankind. Majority of the people are not going to obey Allah. So every time we look and say, but everyone else is doing it, right? Because that's what everyone says, right? When they want to do something wrong, they say, but why are you telling me everyone else is doing it too?
It's about you.
Not only is it about you, but just because everyone is doing it doesn't make it right. Because over, what is that, 79,500 and something people went back and only 313 stayed? That's an overwhelming majority, right? Some people today would say, listen, nobody stayed with you, man. I'm going too. Right? I said, why should I stay? Everyone left. Because the truth is the truth, and you have to support the truth regardless who is with you or who is against you. Does that make sense? Support the truth regardless who is with you or against you. Even if it's just you alone, die supporting the truth. Don't give up on the truth. قال الذين يظنون. So they said, excuse me, I went back. قالوا لا طاقة لنا اليوم بجالوت وجنوده. So they said there's no way that we can become, we don't have any ability, لا طاقة. We don't have any power or might to be able to overcome Jalut and his army. Not just 313 of us. It's impossible, right? That's what they started to think. They started to doubt the help of Allah because they looked at their numbers. Same number, right? ولما برزوا الجالوت, so then they said, now what? وقال الذين يظنون أنهم ملاقو الله كم من فئة قليلة غلبت فئة كثيرة بإذن الله والله مع الصابرين. So then those who knew, this is the difference. يظنون here, it doesn't mean they had doubt. When we see dhann in the Quran, it means the certainty. So those who had certain knowledge that they were going to meet Allah. That's the difference in our lives. Like we talked about in the khutbah the other day. That those who know they're going to meet Allah, their lives are going to change and become different than those who, they're not certain. They're like, I don't know if we're going to meet Allah. So when you know you're going to meet Allah, you realize how worthless your life is to Allah. I mean, in regards to the cause of Allah. My life doesn't mean nothing in regards to supporting the truth. Right? What does my life mean when I'm going to meet Allah? Imagine what Allah is going to give me for supporting the truth over everything else I love. So those who were certain of the fact that they were going to meet Allah, they said, how many times did a small group overcome a big group? How many times did a small number of people overcome a bigger number of people. That happened a lot in history, right? Like what is that movie, 300, right? It was 300 those Romans or something like that. Spartans, yeah. Those guys that 300 of them beat a whole or held off on. That happened amongst the Muslims a lot. They really maybe try to steal these tales from the Muslims, where the Muslims go out with a small army of people and they overcome. The battle of the Muslims fought the Romans, right? Way bigger army. So it happens so many times. And then it says, by the permission of Allah, and Allah is with those who have patience. What does it mean by Allah is with those who have patience? Wallahu ma'as sabirin. What does it mean? What does that mean? Allah is with those who have patience. What does it mean Allah is with those who have patience? Somebody, come on. Huh? Allah what? Allah listens to the ones who are patient. Okay, we learned something. I mentioned this before, that the ma'iyyah of Allah, Allah being with the creation, is of two types. One is general and one is specific. One is general and one is specific. Allah, without any doubt, is with all of the creation with His knowledge and knowing what they're doing. He hears everything, right? There's nothing that goes out of the knowledge of Allah. That's for the kafir, the Muslim, the believer, everyone together, right? But then what does it mean when Allah says things like Wallahu ma'as sabirin, Wallahu ma'al ladina amanu, right? Wallahu ma'al muhsinin. What does it mean, these type of ayats? Allah will support them. He will help them over their enemies. So if you want the help of Allah, be patient, be good, have taqwa. Anytime that you see those type of ayats where Allah specifically selects out a group of people and He says He's with them, right? That means that He's going to support them. He's going to help them. And we need to be those type of people because we all need the support and help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That makes sense? Continuing, it says, وَلَمَّا بَرَزُوا لِجَالُوتَ وَجُنُودِهِ قَالُوا رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا وَثَبِّتْ أَقْدَامَنَا وَانصُرْنَا عَلَى الْقَوْمِ الْكَافِرِينَ. So when Talut appeared in front of the army of Jalut and Jalut, so now remember how the armies fought back then, they would come and they would face on a battlefield. So when the armies came and they faced and they appeared in front of each other, now remember, imagine how big the army of Jalut is, and they have 313 men. So Talut, he makes dua. رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا. Oh Allah, pour on us patience. We're going to need it. وَثَبِّتْ أَقْدَامَنَا. And make our feet firm. وَانصُرْنَا عَلَى الْقَوْمِ الْكَافِرِينَ. And help us over this disbelieving people. It's dua that we should use a lot, right? Especially when we feel like we might want to be cowards in the face of practicing our deen. We don't want to look like a Muslim in certain places when we go to school or we go to work. We say, I don't really want to look like a Muslim. I don't want to pray in public, right? I don't want to wear the proper hijab because I'm afraid.
Of what?
I don't know what people are afraid of. You gotta ask them. Everyone has their own fears of what they fear in life, right? Regardless of what it is that the person might fear. This is a dua that you use so that you don't be a coward for the sake of Allah. So, oh Allah, pour over me patience. At this time, it's right in front of me, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to be firm. Or even if it's just a sin that you want to commit, and you say, the shaitan is pushing me to do, oh Allah, help me. And make my feet firm. We should say this dua a lot, especially when we see in front of us. Right? So he made this dua. And how does Allah answer his dua? Now we learn another story. There comes another story of Prophet who? Whose story comes into play now? Prophet Dawood. Right? So now Dawood is a young man of how old do you think? How old? Was it 18? Who said 18? No.
23.
He was 7.
7.
He was 7 years old. Little guy, right? A little warrior. MashaAllah. Dawood has 7 brothers. Right? His brothers were with the army of Talut. Okay? So now Dawood was just a little guy. He wasn't with them. But his brothers went out to fight. He was a little boy who used to be like a shepherd. He used to watch over the sheep or the goats, whatever they had. Right? And that was his thing. To go out and watch over that. So when Talut's brothers, no information reached their fathers. Their fathers worried, are they alive, are they dead? What happened to my sons, right? He didn't know. So he sent Dawood to go find out what happened to his sons, to the other brothers. Go find out what happened with your brothers. So when Dawood went, the armies were facing each other. Oh, what's going on here? It's getting ready to go down. So Dawood, he went and he said to them, he found his brothers, and at this time that he came, he found his brothers were okay, they were in the army, and Jalut, Goliath, right? Jalut, he's making a claim. He said, oh, somebody come out and meet us in the middle of the battlefield. This is what they used to do on the battle back, and they would call out, where's your biggest, best fighter? Let him come out and fight one of our best. See how you guys are really out. So Ben Israel, they're like, yo, nobody's going. They're like, man, I'm not going anywhere. This guy is huge. I'm not going to go fight this guy, right? So then he starts making big claims. He's talking big jump. He says, hey, Ben Israel, if you guys have the truth, come and fight. One of you guys come out and fight. You claim that you're on the truth, right? So they're like, man, we're not going. So here's Dawood. You know how a little brother is, right? And the little brother looks up to his older brothers, right? They say, hey, come on, brothers. Why don't you guys go out and fight him? You guys are, tough. I know you guys. So they're like, go fight him. Come on. They're like, nah, we're not doing it. So he's running all the way through the line trying to find somebody to go fight him. And he's a little boy. He doesn't understand. He's like, what's going on? Why is everyone scared? So he's like, goes to his brother, goes to the other brother. He's like, what? So he says, you know what? I'll go. So he goes to the prophet Talut. He says, listen, I'll go fight him. He said, man, you going to go? But Dawood was known to be the type of one he would wrestle with the lions and the wolves that would come and try to steal, or fight with the lions and the wolves that would try to come and steal his sheep. So he was known to be a little rough little 7-year-old boy, right? You know, sometimes you're a little rough little brother. He's just real too tough for his own good, right? So he says, okay, go ahead. So when Dawood was walking to go fight, there was 3 rocks. And the rocks called out to him. They said, hey, Dawood, take us with you. We'll be the reason that we'll be the death of Jalut. Take us with you. Right? So when Dawood was walking towards the fight, he saw Jalut, this big giant, and he had a little slingshot that he used to use to fight the wolves and the lions and stuff that would try to come and take the animal. So he came and he took his slingshot, and he said it hit him in the chest. And it opened his whole chest up, like it exploded in his chest. And then Jalut fell. And then he took the other 2 rocks and he killed like 30 of the men. Each rock killed like 30 of the people of the other army. Excuse me, I missed a point. So before Dawood went out, he went to Talut and he said, Talut, man, nobody wants to fight. He said, what are you going to give me if I fight, if I go fight them? He said, I'll marry you to my daughter and I'll give you half of my kingdom. He said, man, half of your kingdom? And you're going to give me a daughter? Okay, I'm for it. So he went out and he went and fought and he won. When he came back, give me my prize. And that's how Dawood, and then Dawood, not only did he have half the kingdom, he also became a prophet. Allah gave him, as it comes in the ayat next, Allah Ta'ala said, وَلَمَّا بَرَزُوا لِجَالُوتَ وَجُنُودِهِ قَالُوا رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا وَثَبِّتْ أَقْدَامَنَا وَانصُرْنَا عَلَى الْقَوْمِ الْكَافِرِينَ فهزموهم بإذن الله وقتل داود جالوت وآتاه الله الملك والحكمة وعلمه مما يشاء. So he says فهزموهم بإذن الله. They overcame them, they defeated them, right? By the permission of Allah. And Dawood killed Jalut. And Allah gave him authority and kingdom and dominion, right? And it was first he was given a half of the kingdom of who? Of Talut. And Allah gave him wisdom, and he taught him from that which he willed to teach him. He became a prophet and a king. So Dawood became a prophet king. Before they had a prophet and a king, But now Dawood combined between both of them and became a what? Prophet king. وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسَ بَعْضَهُمْ بِبَعْضٍ لَفَسَدَتِ الْأَرْضُ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ ذُو فَضْلٍ عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ. And Allah says if it wasn't for the fact that Allah will push back or repel some people by utilizing other people. Allah will use some people to fight off other people. There will be much corruption in the earth. Right? وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ ذُو فَضْلٍ عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ. And Allah Ta'ala says this, showing that He used Dawood to kill off Jalut and his people. And they became victorious because of that. But similarly, we see it happen today. That always in the earth, there's going to be some people that have more power than others. And those ones who have more power should be the ones that keep everyone else in check. Right? To keep everyone else from doing the acts that cause corruption in the earth. And whose job is that supposed to be? The job of the Muslims, right? When the Muslims are not on top of their game, the Muslims are divided and weak. So instead of what happens, that we become the people that people try to keep in check. You see how Allah reverses the roles and punishes us with our own job? And instead of us being the ones that keep everybody else in check, making sure that everyone else acts justly, right? We become the ones that people say, listen, we'll show you guys how to live. You see how backwards that is? That you have people that literally think that they can teach Muslims how to live better. So they come into the Muslim lands, they say, we'll show you how to govern your people. We'll show you how to rule your people. And actually the Muslims call them, come help us learn how to govern our people. And in reality, we're supposed to be the ones that show everyone else how to govern their people. Correct? And to keep everyone in check. تِلْكَ آيَاتُ اللَّهِ نَتْلُوهَا عَلَيْكَ بِالْحَقِّ وَإِنَّكَ لَمِنَ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. And Allah, He ends this section by saying, those are the ayat of Allah that we recited upon you in truth. And indeed, you are from amongst the prophets. And these type of stories, they come and they bring ease to the life, the heart of the Prophet ﷺ, and let him know that he is a messenger in reality and that he is upon the correct way. هذا وصلى الله وسلم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. That's it. I don't want to and why? In retrospect, right? I don't want to make the Tafseer classes too long. Why? Because there's a lot to learn and act upon. So much comes in one ayat of Quran in reality that we need to learn how to apply and benefit ourselves with, right? That we don't want to overdo it when we learn so much and so much and so much and so much. And number one, we might forget it. Number two, we don't apply none of it. So we want to try to make this whole week, this story, these ayats should be in our mind, going over it. We should talk about it, review it with each other. Say, man, what can we do to be like Talut? What can we do to be like Dawood? What can we not do to be like Jalut? How can we not be like Ben Israel, the other ones who ran and left? And utilize that, review it amongst each other for the rest of the week until next week we come and start to deal with the next section that we take. Are there any questions? طيب السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
How do you keep it? I'm not trying to make it small.